there, and welcome to 1315. We are about to start the famine, so that means that we're going to have to get rid of all of our animals and not plant any crops for the next couple years that we're playing. They are only allowed to eat one meal a day. I have Isabel kind of prepping up their food stocks and trying to take anything that they've collected and turn it into a product that can last longer and not necessarily go bad or spoil as easily. So she started off the year just absolutely busy chopping away in the kitchen. Please excuse my dogs if they're in the background this video. I'm going to go ahead and just keep recording since if I don't get it done now, I'm not sure when I'll get another good chance before Sunday. So Isabel is currently prepping everything. The kids are all hanging out with one another. The animals having to be sold. I am trying to do the ingredients option. That way they just have a little bit more of a restock after losing everything when I redid the file. On the upside, playing this year, I did not run into any of the glitches that I had previously. So fingers crossed we fixed everything and we're good to go moving forward. In the family relationship aspect, they're kind of all reestablishing those since unfortunately they were lost. Also, after so much food prep, Isabel took some time to practice flute for fun, and then Milo asked if she wanted to do something else for fun. While they're inside, the kids were all outdoors finishing up chores in basically a blizzard weather. I unfortunately missed Tobias falling on his butt, but that's what he did. After that, he did go in to help out in the kitchen for a little bit. Probably not normally the type of work he would offer to help with, but I'm sure he was happy to get inside. Over in the Wood household, Arnold and Marcus had a little bit of a sit down, reading from a guidebook on how to behave as he's starting to get older. Little Nico aged up into an intense infant, and his face agrees with that very much. After his talk with Marcus, Arnold went over to hang out with Marjorie for a little bit. She has decided to start taking up cross-stitch autonomously, so that's very promising that she will have some skills as she gets older. Rosa and Max are still getting along just fine, even though she's a little bit of the mean-spirited one in the household. The two of them haven't had any issues. Once all the kids laid down to bed, Beatrice and Arnold had a little bit of time to themselves. At the main household, Emmett and Tobias got into a disagreement whether they were fighting or if it was just harmless fun and mischief. Nice to see, though, that no matter what happens across the save files, Tobias is still a questionable human being. We love him for it, in his own way. Once again, Isabel is back to prepping. Reddit came to my rescue when I was trying to figure out why I couldn't access the homemade ingredients anymore after updating the Ye Olde Cookbook mods to the new ones that Little Bobub has out. And there was someone on there who actually was able to describe the object that I needed to use instead of using the cookbook for recipe making. So yay, we can do all the things again. After finishing up in the kitchen, Isabel told Cassandra a story to help her fall asleep easily. Outside, the children kind of talk to each other. Even Milo is telling Madeline that she needs to take care of how filthy she is. She agrees after checking herself out and strode off to the bathroom to deal with that. Having no animals or crops to be taken care of, Milo decided to hang out in the snow and play rather than do anything productive such as woodworking. Emmett tried to get Tobias to apologize for his earlier behavior, but Tobias wasn't really having any of it. He just kept getting mad, even thinking about the fact that someone thinks he did anything wrong, because, of course, he did nothing wrong. So he decided to take out that anger and frustration on the snowman that the kids were trying to build. Once all that remained was a little pile of snow, Emmett decided to try one more time to approach Tobias. He really should have given it a little bit more of a break and a cool-off period. As you can tell, even the approach of Emmett was making Tobias upset, and he did not make much progress in the way of getting an apology from him, even as he tried to list off the reasons that he deserved one. After that, all of the kids and teenagers decided to go hang out at the bluffs while it was nice and sunny and warm out. Darius and Mina are also teenagers now. They used to hang out with the Max and Tobias as smaller children and go fishing together over at the Wood household. Interestingly, as soon as they all met up together to hang out as teenagers for the first time, he went to greet Mina and say hello, and we discovered something new. Apparently, Tobias has a soulmate, and they grew up together. After their initial catch-up, they went and hung out by the bonfire, did a little bit of snuggling, and then decided to join Darius with some fire dancing. No idea if they would have done that or not, but it seems like a fun activity for the teens. And they definitely enjoyed it. Taking a break from dancing, they did decide to be sweet and romantic while they're away from prying eyes of adults. Emmett, Aaron, and Madeline were kind of hanging out and telling stories and playing games over to themselves. One of the neighborhood children decided to come over and introduce himself as well to the group. He is a newcomer to town and is part of the Martinez family. It seems as though they got along all right, and hopefully they can become friends over the next few years. As it started getting later in the day, the fire seemed to draw more and more of the kids to it for the brightness and warmth. And Tobias just couldn't help himself from giving Emmett a hard time as soon as he came within arm's reach, which Madeline is getting very irritated about. I feel as though she would be righteously upset on behalf of Emmett. He decided to get away from Tobias and go talk to Marjorie and the Martinez girl. He tried his hand at telling some big stories, seeing if he could get some entertainment smiles and laughter from them. But it kind of fell flat. Once the sun was truly setting down below the horizon, all the kids started to decide that it was time to trail off and begin going home. Everyone was starting to get irritated, hungry, had to use the bathroom. There was a lot more short tempers and discomfort going on than seemed to be worthwhile. When they got home, they found Shay dropping off the triplets, who aged up into toddlers, and assuming that, her part of the deal was done and that there was a famine going on, she was ready just to give them back and just focus on herself. Over in the Wood house, Beatrice finally had to accept the fact that her chickens needed to go away, even though she adores them greatly. Arnold consoled Marjorie about the loss of the chickens, which had been, friends and companions and playmates to her as she was a young child. Arnold kept his wife company as she prepared their evening meal of gruel. As everyone slowly made their way to the kitchen for food and to eat together, they shared stories of their days, I feel like Max would have been telling them, the family-friendly stories from the bonfire and going to the bluffs with all of the kids and teenagers. After dinner, the boys all went ahead and hung out in the bedroom to talk with one another. And Arnold discovered that Nico really likes to eat food, which unfortunately for him, his mom is asleep at the moment. But Marcus and Max are getting along. Rosa decided to join them and actually have a little bit of pleasant conversation. Well, pleasant by Rosa's standards. The next day, the king and Trader Jacques showed up, but the king wouldn't actually talk to anybody. He just stood there. I wonder if he was surveying all of the different properties in his area, knowing that there's the famine going on, to see if any of them are still continuing to be worth anything, or if there's some problems that he needs to address. Once those adults left, the Wood children decided to have a little bit of a snowball fight with one another, just to have some fun. While they were playing, they were telling each other jokes and teasing and doing normal kid stuff. And Marcus realized that he doesn't share quite the same sense of humor as the rest of them. And Marjorie doesn't handle being the target in these fights very well. After a long day of playing outside in the fresh air and sunshine, Max decided to have his daily gruel with his family. It definitely looks as though Beatrice and Max are on a similar page, and Arnold may want both of them to be a little bit more serious. In our main household, Isabel and Milo are outdoors enjoying the sunset with one another and being a little bit romantic. Since the toddlers got dropped off to us as toddlers, and we didn't go to that household for their birthday roll, we'll go ahead and do that now. Quick reminder, the triplets have to avoid 4, 8, 12, and 16 to become toddlers. We will roll for Hazel first. And she's good. Let's roll for Jalen. He's okay. And for Celeste. She also made it. The triplets will all be toddlers. As we look to end this year, the main household is absolutely overflowing with people and children. We currently have 4 toddlers, 3 of whom have come back home with basically no skills, so they have to be carried up and down stairs at the moment, all the things. We also have a couple of children in the house and a teenager. So Milo and Isabel have their hands absolutely full going into this famine. It'll be curious to see if they feel like they're able to handle having all of the children back and, make sure that they're looked over, taken care of, and fed, or if they're going to have to make the tough decision in the future to maybe send off some of the older children to, different skill apprenticeships that may be available. Of course, we all know that things can change rapidly in the next couple years when we have to do our famine rolls. So that may answer itself. As far as their activities, they definitely are all chit-chatting, hanging out. Tobias, oddly enough, is helping with parental type activities and behaviors with Cassandra. And Milo is not feeling so overwhelmed by all these kids that he actually still wants to have more. He really is enjoying his family life. Thank you so much for watching 1315. If you have any input or opinions on what should happen with all these children, if some of the older ones should be sent off for apprenticeships, or we need to look into any sort of other potential scenarios, just let me know in the comments. I would love to see what you all think. I really don't have a personal preference at the moment based on their storyline. The food situation doesn't seem to be dire at the moment. They have ingredients, they're still able to prep a meal a day, but obviously, with 8 kids and 2 adults, that is going to potentially speed up their storage demise. But hopefully, 1316 ends up being a good year for everyone. It is going to have a lot of birthday rolls happening. We have Nico becoming a toddler, Cassandra a child, Ariel a child, Aaron and Rosa teenagers. Plus, I don't know if either of these couples are going to end up being pregnant right now, leading into the beginning of the year. So it could go really well, or we could have tragedy before we even get to the famine rolls. Either way, I hope to see you in that one, and we'll find out together. Thank you so much.